Good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for finding time to be with us. The show is Diaspora Dispatches, where I get to bring you the latest news from across the continent of Africa, and I do have so much in store for you this afternoon. It is 3 p.m. East African time here in Nairobi. I trust that you are well. Good morning, good evening, depending on where you're tuned in and watching us from today. We start our news bulletin this afternoon from Nigeria, where police in Nigeria have declared as wanted the prime suspects at last week's lynching of a female student in the northern city of Sokoto. Police spokesperson Sanusi Abubakar said the suspects had claimed the murder of Deborah Samuel in a video of the mob action shared widely on social media. The female Christian student was accused of blasphemy against Islam at a college, prompting an angry reaction from some Muslim students. A mob then killed her and set her body alight on Thursday last week. Authorities say they're searching for the fleeing suspects and that the police force has deployed all its intelligence to get them arrested, urging the public to support police officers in this regard. The authorities have not stated exactly how many people they're tracking down. Police said 2 suspects arrested at the scene were charged in court and remanded in prison in connection with the violence. The 2 denied involvement when they appeared in court on Monday. And 1 person died and 5 others are receiving treatment after a group of protesting youth stormed a police station in Ghana's northern town of Nkoronza, police has confirmed. The protesters also freed some 6 suspects from police cells during the chaos, police said in a statement on Wednesday. The protest on Tuesday followed the killing of a 28-year-old suspect by police during an operation targeting armed robbery suspects in the area. Those injured during the clashes are receiving treatment for gunshot wounds, a local outlet reports, quoting a hospital official. The official said 1 patient was in a coma with a bullet stuck in his chest. And President Hassan Sheikh Mohammed has welcomed the redeployment of U.S. forces in Somalia, where Al-Shabaab attacks had heightened due to a prolonged electoral crisis. U.S. President Joe Biden's administration announced on Monday plans to send about 600 American forces to support targeted operations against Al-Shabaab militants. This came a day after Somali MPs elected Mr. Mohamud for a second term in a tense vote that ended the country's transition crisis. Mr. Biden's predecessor withdrew 700 U.S. forces who had been supporting the Somali National Army through training and carrying out airstrikes against Al-Qaeda-affiliated militants. An opinion article on the pro-government Puntland Post said the U.S. decision undermined security reforms that had been undertaken by President Mohammed's predecessor. Al-Shabaab has not yet reacted to the U.S. announcement, but has profiled the incoming Somali leader as a puppet. And the military in Uganda says it will withdraw hundreds of troops it sent last year to help neighboring Democratic Republic of Congo combat an Islamist insurgency. The Uganda Land Forces Commander Muhonzi Kainerugamba said that Operation Shujaa had only been intended to last for 6 months and would end by next month unless an extension was agreed. The authorities in the DR Congo said the terms and timeline for the Ugandan withdrawal would need to be agreed by both countries. In December, Uganda sent 1,700 soldiers to take part in the joint operation with Congolese troops against rebels known as the Allied Democratic Forces. The ADF is accused of carrying out raids and massacres in eastern DRC and bombings in Uganda. We head over back to Nigeria, and the Nigerian government has asked Facebook and other social media sites to stop allowing indigenous people of Biafra to use their platform to incite violence and instigate ethnic hatred in Nigeria, according to a press release. The Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, made the request at a meeting in Abuja with Facebook employees. IPOB wants to create a breakaway state in southeast Nigeria called Biafra. Last week, a BBC investigation found that a network of Nigerian separatists based outside the country is using social media to call for violence and incite ethnic hatred against opponents of Biafran independence. Facebook's parent company Meta told the BBC that calling for violence on its platform was unacceptable. It said that it had 15,000 people reviewing content in more than 70 languages, including Igbo. We head over to Malawi, where former Malawian President Bakili Muluzi has lost an appeal which would have led to a corruption case he is facing being discounted. The 79-year-old, who served 2 5-year terms as president between 1994 and 2007 and 4, stands accused of diverting 1.7 billion Malawian kwacha, that is equivalent to $2.4 million of government money, into his personal account during his tenure. He denies the charges. The case was first brought to court 14 years ago, but multiple postponements and disarrangements over technicalities have delayed its conclusion. Mr. Muluzi had sought to have the case discontinued by the Supreme Court of Appeal, arguing the section of law used by the graft-busting body contradicted the country's constitution and infringed on his rights as an accused person. And then we head over to South Sudan, and the United Nations Development Programme and other partners have urged the National Constitution Amendment Committee to urgently review the Election and Financial Reforms Act. NCAC is tasked by the 2018 peace agreement to draft and complete the constitutional amendment bill and incorporate it into the transitional constitution. The committee is mandated to review and complete amendments to relevant national security legislations to bring their provisions into conformity with the agreement. Other tasks include the amendment of other legislations and incorporate any reforms relevant to the peace agreement. I've said that. And the term of the committee reportedly elapsed in February last year. Despite extension, the committee reportedly could not execute its tasks due to what the committee referred to as lack of funding. Recently, the United Nations Development Programme, with funding from the Kingdom of Norway, allocated an unspecified amount to run the NCAC Secretariat and its activities. According to UNDP, they want the NCAC to pay quick attention to key economic laws such as the Public Finance Management and Accountability Act, as well as the National Revenues Authority Act. Others include the Anti-Corruption Act, the Petroleum Act, the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, the Bank of South Sudan Act, and the Banking Act, and the National Elections Act, and the NGOs Act. And then we go to another news related to the DRC, and the Kinshasa government said on Tuesday evening that it was premature to withdraw. This is a response of the news I read earlier about Uganda expressing its intentions to withdraw its troops from the Democratic Republic of Congo. They had sent about 1,700 UPDF to help in fighting the extremist group there. And on that side, Uganda was actively fighting the ADF. And now Kinshasa government said on Tuesday evening that it was premature to withdraw Ugandan troops present in the DRC to fight the ADF rebel group, stressing that such a decision mentioned by Ugandan military officers during the day was up to the heads of the two states. In a tweet, the head of Ugandan Army, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, said that the operation launched jointly by the Congolese Army at the end of November to fight the Allied Democratic Forces rebels was to last 6 months and would therefore end on May 31st unless otherwise instructed. However, in a second message on Twitter, he then clarified that the operation will continue even for another 6 months if both Presidents Museveni and Tshisekedi decided to extend it. Okay, I guess that's what you get when you're a you had the army. You just make announcements without even consulting the commander-in-chief. And that's what Museveni's son is doing here. But we'll get into that in a little bit. Let me just complete with the rest of the news bulletins this afternoon. And we go to South Africa, where, is it? All right, so South African former President Jacob Zuma's case resumed on Tuesday. The Pietermaritzburg High Court judge, however, postponed the trial to a holding date in August. His move enables the judge, president of the Supreme Court of Appeal, to give her final say on the reconsideration application filed by Jacob Zuma's defense, despite the High Court and Supreme Court of Appeal dismissing the application in February. The former president's legal team later wrote to Judge Mandisa Baya, Zuma's defense has been pushing for the removal of Chief Prosecutor Billy Downer, accusing him of being biased. 80-year-old Zuma pleaded not guilty to charges of corruption, money laundering and racketeering over a deal with French arms firm at Thales in the 1990s, when Zuma served as South Africa's deputy president. Tuesday's adjournment is the latest in the former ANC leader corruption case. He failed to turn up for the resumption of his corruption trial last April, citing ill health. His case has been postponed multiple times since it opened in May 2021. And we conclude our bulletin from Mali, where Colonel reputed to be close to Mali's ruling junta has been arrested following what the authorities describe as an attempted coup, two sources said on Tuesday. The junta late Monday announced that last week it had thwarted a would-be push led by army officers and supported by Western states. The mysterious episode marks the latest bout of turbulence in the West African country, which has experienced two coups in less than 2 years. An official at the Defense Ministry, speaking on condition of anonymity, told AFP that Colonel Amadou Keita is among the arrested jihadists. Keita is not well known publicly, but is reputed to have been among army officers who seized power in August 2020, later strengthening their grip in a second coup in May the following year. He is one of the 120 members of the National Transitional Council, a legislature appointed by the junta to pass laws pending a declared return to civil rule. Keita is also said to be close to the CNT's president, Colonel Malik Deo, who is one of the most influential figures in the junta, led by strongman Colonel Assimi Goita. And that is the latest news from across the continent of Africa. So let's just get into some of the news that that I've just read to you. So, Dennis Ukatu, you're saying, honestly, Africa is a mess. How do we get out of this? Okay, I need to know which one, because I've brought to you several other stories that, and a lot of things that are happening in this continent, which, is not too much good news. I don't know which one specifically you're referring to, but yes, a lot is happening. But I suspect you could be referring to that story of Nigeria, which now has approached Facebook and is asking Facebook to, try to look at some of the posts by IPOB. Is that what you're saying you're referring to as a mess? All right. So, of course, we talked about this earlier on our earlier shows, so I'll not dwell too much into it. But, of course, the Nigerian government has asked Facebook and other social media sites to stop allowing the indigenous people of Biafra to use their platforms to incite violence and instigate ethnic hatred in Nigeria. We had a very elaborate conversation about this. So I don't know if this is something that Facebook will consider, but of course the Facebook parent company Meta told the BBC that calling for violence on its platform was unacceptable, which means that Facebook will go and investigate some of these claims that have been made by the Nigerian government, because they're saying, I'll just quote what the minister, a part of that press statement from the Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed. This is what he said. For whatever reason, they seem to have now chosen Facebook as their platform of choice, and their tools include disinformation, incendiary statements, and hate speech. They tag those opposed to their violent wars as saboteurs who must be attacked, maimed, and killed. So the minister is wondering why the IPOB now have chosen, Facebook as their platform of choice. That is because you locked everybody out of Twitter. So Facebook was the next best thing, Minister, in case you're wondering. And so that is what is happening. Oh, Dennis Ukatu, you're saying you're referring to this extremist. Yes, I think that is a point of concern. Thank you so much for that specification. Yeah, that is a cause of concern, because when you read through all the news at least half of it this afternoon, is has to do with something or the other that is attached to extremism and insecurity across Africa, which I think is something that is urgent, and it's something that has to be discussed extensively, even in the African Union. This is something that we have to, address, because it is becoming, increasingly a lot of parts of Africa becoming increasingly, insecure, and so that is something that we have to address. Obima Emmanuel, you're saying IPOB is a peaceful movement, and all you're asking for is a referendum. Well, that is not what the Nigerian government feels. They're saying that some IPOB members, especially from outside Nigeria who are abroad, are the ones who are actually making posts and inciting violence and instigating ethnic hatred. And so I don't know if the Nigerian government will be seeking to have a Facebook ban in Nigeria like they did with Twitter, or I don't know what will be the next move, because we saw the Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, doing that last year with the ban of Twitter. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Nigerian government woke up one morning and decided, you know what, maybe we need to ban Facebook for a while, and then, I don't know how they will benefit from that, but they're saying now this has become a chosen platform. Facebook has become a chosen platform where IPOB, has decided to use this tool to give out disinformation and incendiary statements and spread hate speech. That is according to this minister. So you can tell me your thoughts on the government of Nigeria approaching, Facebook and, just making these claims, and how you feel about it, and perhaps your position, and if at all you feel that there is abuse of social media as far as this is concerned. You can write to me and I will share some of that to our viewers. So let's look at another country that we looked at earlier. I have a couple of minutes, I believe, and that is Somalia. And we know Somalia has a new president, the President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, who was, he was elected. I don't know if it's elected or selected, but some election happened. And it is, the members of parliament, the lower house and the Senate, the legislators who elected the president on Sunday, and that replaced former President Farmajo, who was there and who was supposed to have left last year in February, but because of issues especially to do with insecurity, they kept pushing the election date, and it happened on Sunday. And he said he has welcomed the redeployment of the U.S. forces in Somalia because, President Trump removed the U.S. forces during his last days in power. One of the things that he did, he wanted to bring back the forces of U.S. from other countries back to the U.S. who are peacekeeping, who are helping in security operations, like in the country of Somalia. So that is something that he did, and now Biden, signed, announced on Monday that he plans to bring another 600 American forces to support targeted operations of Al-Shabaab in Somalia. And of course, the new president really, really welcomed this move, which I think is quite a departure from what we saw and the attitude we saw of the outgoing president, Farmajo, as far as the foreign forces in Somalia is concerned. And now, we do know that the current Prime Minister, Hussein Roble, that is the current Somali Prime Minister, but that might not be for so long because of how the structures of governance in Somalia, I think, will not allow him to stay as the Prime Minister as far as clanism is concerned, because even the legislators and the leadership of Somalia, they are elected or selected based on clanism to represent different clans and different interests. And then after they've been selected from the grassroots, they make up the parliament, and now it is them that elect their president, like it happened on Sunday. Somalia Prime Minister Hussein Roble will be leaving his post once the new President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud names his substantive government in line with Somalia's delicate clan balancing to ensure no clan dominate the government. So they have to ensure that, everybody is well represented and no one clan is seen as being dominant in the government. Otherwise, we will see effects of that. So Mr. Roble and President Mohamud come from the larger Hawiye clan. So they come from the same clan. So that disqualifies Roble as he can't be a prime minister, because him and the president, they come from the same clan, and this clan is quite dominant, okay? The clan is known as Hawiye clan, and although the prime minister is from the smaller of that, Habar Gidir sub-clan of that Hawiye clan, while the president is from Abgal of that Hawiye clan. As such, they cannot continue holding their positions at the same time based on the formula known as 4-5. Now listen. The 4-5 formula, a loose arrangement, rationally democracy practice, means that Somalia's 4 main clans, that is Hawiye, Darod, Dir, and Digil, Mirifle, share out power alongside the smaller clans, generally considered the 5, okay, under the outgoing government. So the 4-5, the 4 are the most dominant, with, I think, a larger population in Somalia, and then we have the other 5 smaller ones. So that is how you share power. Under the outgoing government of Mohamed Farmajo, who comes from the Marehal sub-clan of the Darod clan, appointed prime ministers from the Hawiye. Mr. Roble's predecessor, Hassan Haire, came from a different sub-clan of the Hawiye, okay? In spite of the clan balancing politics, Mr. Roble may be exiting the stage after completing one of the toughest assignments yet, and that is holding an election in spite of improper legal framework, because that was the key mandate that he was tasked with when when Haire left and Roble came in, and so he tasked with taking over the preparation and delivering an election, and I think he has achieved that pretty well. And so in the grand scheme of things, Roble can be rated as, of course, successful because he was able to deliver those elections, and that was a very crucial assignment on his part. So he was able to do what his predecessor, Haire, was not able to do. And because of the reasons that I've explained, as far as clanism is concerned, he cannot continue serving under this new government because they come from the same clan, and balancing act as far as the clanism is concerned is a very important and crucial aspect as far as Somalia's politics is concerned. Okay, a bit of history class there, so I'll just leave that there for right now. So of course Uganda has expressed its intention to want to pull out its troops from the Democratic Republic of Congo, and of course the DRC has responded by saying that is not a good idea, because you know why? It is President Museveni's son who made that announcement on Twitter. Does he know anything about diplomacy, and especially when it comes to national security and army and its protocol? I don't know why he even thinks it's necessary to tweet about things like this. First of all, your father, General Muhonzi, your father is the commander-in-chief. Your father, being the head of state and being the commander-in-chief, is the one who led Uganda into entering into an agreement with Felix Tshisekedi, another commander-in-chief, and the president of the Democratic Republic of Congo. So they agreed Ugandan troops will come and help us fight in northern DRC, that is North Kivu and those areas, for about 6 months. And then maybe thereafter we will review another terms of working together in cooperation, and Uganda coming to help us. So Mr. Muhonzi, General Muhonzi, goes to Twitter, tweets out that Uganda shall be withdrawing, is considering to pull out its troops from the DRC. It did send its troops last year in November, about 1,700 of them, to try to help the Congo army fight alongside its troops in a joint operation to try to get rid of the Allied Democratic Forces. The side that the Ugandan UPDF went is where the ADF are. And we also do have the M23 neighboring Rwanda, and Rwanda has been accused of supporting that. There are several many militants that are present in the Democratic of Congo. And the issue of militancy and insecurity in the DRC is a matter that is complex as it can get, multifaceted as it can get, you know, and also representing a lot of interest as it can possibly get. And that is because of Congo as it is, and you bring in the issue of the mineral resources, and then the other influence of the colonial leaders, colonial masters, which is still very lingering. And also you bring in the issue of the other leadership they've had, like previous president, like say Mobutu Sese Seko. Remember, Patrice Lumumba was killed because he was standing against the Belgians and the French. And, you know, he was a Pan-African, and he believed, you know, that Congo can and should take care of its own affairs. So he was not playing ball with the colonial masters. He was murdered. And they installed Mobutu Sese Seko, who was a gatekeeper for a long time for these colonial masters. And they just ran down the economy of, he even changed the name of that country, called it Zaire, you know, Zaire. That's what they say in their language. So for quite a long time. So Congo has been struggling, you know, with Kabila, who became the president. Of course, Mobutu was removed. And guess who removed? I think the army from Rwanda helped in removing Mobutu, okay? So Rwanda is a small country, but its army is no joke. But anyway, Rwanda, I mean, the DRC has been trying to rebuild itself, but the presence of perennial conflict, which is being influenced, which is being sponsored with some external forces, have denied this country some stability so that it can take care of its own affairs. So this has it caused a lot of trouble to the DRC, and so it has become very difficult for it to stabilize. So I see I'm being joined by one of a correspondent we had earlier on from Nigeria, who has been monitoring the court proceedings of Nnamdi Kanu. Today he was presented in the courts, and so I think Captain Chikas, if you can hear me, with the latest from Lagos. Is it Lagos, Nigeria, or is it Abuja? Abuja, Nigeria.
Abuja.
All right, Abuja, Nigeria. Captain Chikwas, good afternoon.
Yeah, a very good afternoon to you from here.
All right, so what is the latest from the courts? Do you know?
Well, the court has been adjourned until May 26, 2022 for hearing and or final ruling of a bail application, which was brought again before the court. I want to clear the web here. There was a bail application. A bail application had been filed in the respect of releasing the defendant on bail, and the justice had to disallow the bail application, as we had reported that they want to be in the know of what transpired during his in absentia. And as well, the court granted that.
Go ahead.
Yes, the court granted that the defense team come again with a new bail application. Same was done, and after some arguments, the presiding judge had to okay the application, which was allowed to be heard in court, an oral application. And as well, subsequently, she had to adjourn for ruling on the 26th of May. Amongst other things, there was a heavy argument based on what transpired from September 2017. That is during the moment the IPOB leader was in absentia, the moment he was said to have fled death by the Nigerian army. So the defense team had to present a couple of shreds of evidence, and as well a ruling in Umuahia, which did say that the invasion was illegal. However, the presiding justice, Binta Nyako, did not take the ruling, which she said was not in her jurisdiction. And subsequently, the justice had to call upon the Department of State Security Services, DSS, and asking them why they would blatantly disobey her orders. Mind you, this is the 10th time the defendant is putting on Effendi clothing, which the justice had said allow this very man, Nnamdi Kanu, allow him to change clothes and all of that. So the defendant had no clear answers to that. So a lot of arguments did trump up, and the judge was, I must say, the judge was magnanimous to making sure that the new amended charges, 6 charges, as we had reported in the morning hours, that the same charges, the new charges, were quashed. The judge said, look, we have to disallow this traditional way of bringing up new charges every now and then. Therefore, the judge reverted to the already 7 count charge, which had been existing. Those charge in its entirety remains charges 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, and 15. So we hope that on the 26th of May, there shall be a substantive case, and as well a ruling of the said bail application that very day. Thank you very much.
Okay, so if you say that the charges have been, the amended charges have been quashed, because we know 3 office lawyers are now a part of that case, and they have been charged by being accomplices. Have that part of that amendment been quashed yet, or they still stand accused?
No. The so-called accusation was dismissed right by the justice. You know, it was dismissed immediately.
All right.
Because if you look at what's happening, they are trying to demonize lawyers. They are trying to demonize people, activists, human rights activists and lawyers to stand in and defend people who are accused. You know, but I did not hold water. That was why I said, or I mentioned the magnanimity of the justice this very afternoon.
Okay, and we do know that after the initial charges against Nnamdi Kanu was 15, and 8 of them were quashed. So, but he appealed to challenge the other 7. What do you know about the status of his appeal on those 7, charges?
Yeah, very well. The 7 counts charge were appealed upon on the May 2nd, that's this month, 2022, a couple of weeks ago, in the appellate court. But the court is still, the case is still in. He did everything he just did. Okay.
All right.
Stop the video. Okay.
Okay.
Delete it.
Oh, all right, Chicos, I hope that you're safe where you are. Okay, that was our correspondent from Abuja, who has been following closely the trial of Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of indigenous people of Biafra. And from what I heard there, maybe that was a security officer telling him to stop the video. So I hope that did not get him in trouble, but we will check with him later on. So anyway, thank you so much. I think I had looked at some of the key stories that we were following up for you this afternoon, and I think we will come back here tomorrow, God willing, and bring you up to date with the latest, of course, following that story and others that are also developing in the continent. Thank you so much for your time. My name is Miriam Ogutu. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye for now.